guys, and welcome back to my channel. I am Auntie D, if you do not already know. If you are new here, thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to subscribe. We are a great group. You will love our family. Today I decided to do a different kind of video. I asked my friend what she thought I could do. If you're hearing a banging noise, it's this hitting the table. I'm sorry guys, but I asked my best friend what she thought I could do for a new video for this week, and she said to do a draw my life video. So that is what exactly I'm going to do. As you guys can tell, I have the papers set beside me. It's not gonna be an actual like draw my life because I can't draw to save my life. So it is gonna be like a write my life out sort of video where I show you a little book that I have. I have a few of them. I'm not gonna show you the front of it yet, but I have a few little book things that I made of writing my life out. And I'm gonna show you the first, like the page of it, and then I'm going to explain more in depth into the certain things. But I don't want this video to be too long, so without further ado, let's jump into it. Okay guys, this first page is day one. Firstborn, everything. I was born February 5th, 1999 in Joplin, Missouri. That was the day I first broke a bone. When I was first born, I already had a broken arm coming out. The next day, literally the next day, the nurse picked me up wrong and dislocated my hip. So that was a great first start. Okay. I was born to Stephanie Stevens and Stephanie Skinkus and Jimmy Skinkus. Jimmy was, or James I think is how he goes by now, but when we were younger it was Jimmy. But he was my father. And a few things happened that led us to no longer being around him. Not gonna go very into depth of that because that is some personal issues. So we're gonna start with elementary. Now, elementary school is the very first thing people get to, or one of the very first things people get to and kind of start remembering a little bit of. In elementary, I think it was either elementary or preschool, I'm not really sure, but I got kicked out of school for punching somebody. This boy kept picking on me and I punched him. So my mother says. So yeah, there's that. And then flash forward to a few years. I don't remember the rest of that. I didn't even remember that, so my mom told me. So flash forward a few years, we moved to Oklahoma, as you can see on the bottom. We moved to Oklahoma to live with my aunt and uncle for a little bit until we found our own place down there. Moving to Oklahoma wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision for us. It was kind of a planned thing that we did. We just couldn't find a house. Ironically, like 2 or 3 months after we moved, though, we found a house literally right down the road from them. So I think that was just kind of, I think it might have been planned, I just don't know. But yeah, we moved to Oklahoma, moved in with my aunt and uncle and my grandma and grandpa because they kind of lived in the same area, to say. Like, my uncle owns a land and my grandma and grandpa's trailer was out there along with his. But we moved out there and we kind of just moved back and forth between their homes. It was great. I loved every second of it. I loved being able to spend time with my aunt and uncle all the time and my cousin. Me, my brother, and my cousin were referred to as Three Musketeers because we were always conjoined at the hip. Wherever they went, I went. Wherever I went, they sometimes followed. Okay, so when I moved to Oklahoma, I went to a school called Greenville Elementary School. It was located about 10-20 minutes from our house. So that was the main reason we chose it, because of how close it was, and plus my aunt and uncle were sending my cousins there. So we figured, okay, it's a good school. Let's see. During this whole time that I'm telling you all these stories, I was breaking bones and things like that. I just didn't mention them because I don't remember exactly like when the bones were broken and stuff like that. But I remember having a broken leg in elementary school and being on crutches. And I was crutching to the school bus at the end of the day and my pants fell down. Yeah. Little embarrassing. Not gonna lie, it was a little embarrassing. Okay, so we're gonna skip the rest of that. Next thing that I remember is having my first boyfriend. My first boyfriend, I don't remember his name, but I remember that I had him in elementary school. He was the preacher's son. He was a very good gentleman. I honestly think if we didn't move and stuff, I might still be dating him. Or not, you know, life plays out in some really weird ways. Okay, my first best friend in elementary school. Oh, that's way too close. My bad, guys. My first best friend moving to Greenville was my cousin, of course. But my first best friend that I made at school, her name was Harley. And I still have her on my Facebook. I still text her sometimes. We still talk a little bit here and there. But she was my very first best friend. And I'll always remember her. She was amazing. Even when I moved away, we still kept in touch and texted and stuff like that. Okay, now on to middle school. I started middle school in Greenville because in Greenville it went up to like 7th grade and then you went on to high school at a different school building. So in middle school I started there and then I moved to Thackerville. I went there because it was just time to move, you know. We moved, found a new house in Thackerville. We still went out to my aunt and uncle's all the time, but we just kind of, you know, moved. Okay, my first best friend at Thackerville, her name was Sadie Lene. Yeah, Sadie Lene, I think. It was her last name. I know it was Sadie. Her name was Sadie. I still have her, I still keep in touch with her. She just had a son. Congratulations. We don't really talk that much anymore, honestly, but I still have her on Facebook. I still get these, we still follow each other's lives. Like, we're still watching each other progress in the world, you know? We only stayed there for a year, and this is where it gets kind of personal. We only stayed in Thackerville for a year, and then we moved back to Oklahoma. The reason for us only staying there for a year and moving was because my father died. My stepfather, my mom married him when I was 2. I didn't mention that back then, but yeah. My mom married him when I was like 2 or 3. So, he died of a surgery complication, I guess you could say, because he had surgery the night before he collapsed. And they didn't keep him overnight for observation like they should have because he collapsed a few times on the table, so they didn't keep him overnight. And so that night, before he collapsed, he was complaining he was cold, and we had like 5 blankets on him, and he was still saying he was cold. Remind you, I'm like 9. I'm 9 here when this is happening. We called my mother, told her about it. She said to just keep an eye on him, check his temperature every now and then when she got home from work, she would talk to him some more about it. But she got home, he said he was fine. He slept in the chair in his recliner all night because he didn't want to bother her having to get up every now and then because he didn't sleep very well. He was an insomniac, I think. No, yes, I don't remember, guys. I blocked some of this out because of it being so traumatic. But he slept in the chair that night because of some reason. I don't remember exactly why. He got up the next morning. He called my sister because he would call us to wake us up in the morning. She had a phone, so he'd call her, wake her up with a good morning. The sun is shining, the birds are chirping, it's time to get up from school. So he called her, she got up, she answered the phone, she talked to him for a second, got off the phone, woke all of us up. I got dressed, I went to my brother's room. Me and my brother were hanging out for a little bit, and then we decided to go to my mom and dad's room. As soon as we opened their door, he collapsed. And like, he could hear us and everything, and he kind of would respond with like finger movements and like nodding, but he was snoring. Because his sleep apnea, he had sleep apnea. His sleep apnea had kicked in. So he was awake and he could hear us and everything, but he couldn't like actually respond. Which to this day I'm still very confused on. We still went to school that morning. My mom made us go to school so she could focus on him and didn't have to worry about where we were and everything like that, you know. So she made us go to school. About an hour and a half into school, she came and picked us up, and we drove all the way to Oklahoma City that morning. By the second day he was there, I think, he had died. So that was that. Anyways, 2 weeks later, it was my birthday. And can you guess what a little girl who just lost her daddy wished for? Yeah. Yeah, I wished for him to come back and everything like that, and it didn't happen, so yeah. Moving on. Moving back to Marietta and how hard it was. Marietta is where my aunt and uncle live. We had to move back in with them because at the time we weren't expecting him to die or anything like that, so we couldn't afford to pay any of the bills and everything. So we had to leave, and plus our house was being tore down anyway because it was right next to propane tanks, and they were empty, but they were planning on refilling them. So they were tearing down the house anyway, so we had to move back. We had to move out of there unexpectedly. We moved back in with my aunt and uncle just until we could save up enough money to buy our own place. It was hard moving back, honestly. The first day of walking back into school, it was like the middle of the year. So the first day walking back after being gone for about a year and a half, it was kind of weird. I seen people I knew. I sat by them in my first class. Like a week or two later, she asked us to write for some reason about something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember I wrote about my dad, or I wrote about my teddy bear that he had given me and why it was special to me and why I would never get rid of it and stuff like that. And I started bawling in front of the classroom. And my worst fear is crying in front of people and letting them see my weaknesses and stuff like that. So yeah, it was it was a rough day. Anyways, moving on to less pressing matters. My first serious boyfriend and living with my aunt and uncle. Aunts. Okay, my first serious boyfriend that I remember and can recall perfectly, his name was Wyatt. We didn't date that long, honestly, but I had had a crush on him since before I moved away. So yeah, he was, whenever he finally asked me out, it was the best day in the world for me. Okay, so living with my aunt and uncle, I slept in they put a bed in a spare living room sort of thing they had for me, and I slept in there. And it was weird sometimes, but it was okay. Like, I didn't mind it, you know. The only thing I minded was I couldn't get dressed in there. I had to go to the bathroom to get dressed because of where it was. So that was the only thing that really sucked. But other than that, I've loved living there. It was always an adventure, and we had ramen noodles every day after school. Like literally every day. We had some ramen noodles. Around this time is when I first dislocated my shoulder ever. My brother and my cousin both play basketball, so I was in the gym after their basketball game and we were getting ready to leave, and best friend Harley came up to me and she was like, "Hey, where's my backpack?" And I was like, "I don't know, but I'll help you find it." So we started walking around to see if they could find it. I found it on the bleachers. I grabbed it and I went to go give it to her, and my shoelace was untied and I tripped over my shoelace. And her backpack and my backpack both landed on my shoulder. And when they landed on it, they both had books and stuff in it, and hers was like really heavy because she had a lot of books in hers. I think she was going home to catch up on homework that weekend. But she had a lot of books in hers, so it was really heavy, so it pressed down on my shoulder, and when it did, it just popped out of place. I remember standing up, being okay at first, and then my cousin like hit my arm like playfully, be like, oh, are you okay? Like, oh, are you okay, you know? And I was like, ow. And he was like, oh, are you okay? Did I hurt you? And I was like, no, I don't think you did. I think I hurt myself when I fell. So he helped me get over to my mom and the like coaches and stuff like that. And we talked to them about it. They helped me get my sweater off, and they were like, yeah, it might be dislocated. Take it to the hospital. And they helped us out to the car and everything. And they agreed to take my cousin and my brother home for us so we could go straight to the hospital from the game. It hurt so bad. Like, I had so many broken bones, so having that hurt so bad. Like, I was bawling my eyes out. I did not care. I was in pain, and the people at the hospital, like in the waiting room, kept looking at me like I was funny. And I was like, dude, I'm in pain. Leave me alone. Anyways, on to the next one. Moving to Kingston and first day of school. I don't remember the first day of school at Kingston, honestly. I remember being really nervous, but I think it was like okay for the most part. I don't remember the reason exactly we moved to Kingston. I just know we did. We moved there because I think it was because we found a cheap place there. We moved into a trailer park. We found a cheap place in a trailer park, and coincidentally enough, my first best friend that I made lived in the trailer park a few houses down. So that was great. My first crush at Kingston, should I say. My first crush at Kingston was a guy named Trey. He was one of my best friends, but you know how that goes. When you're a kid, you can't help it. You can't help it anytime. Like, I had a crush on two of my best friends, and I couldn't do anything about it because they were my best friends, and I was like, I don't want to make it weird and like lose you guys for saying anything, so I'm just not gonna say anything. Oh, and being a band nerd. I played the clarinet. I was 5th chair out of 7 people. I wasn't great at it, but I played the clarinet and I loved it, every second of it. And honestly, if I could do it again, I would, but I don't remember any of the notes. Living down the road from my best friend. Ew. She stayed over at my house more than I stayed over at her house because her parents were more strict than mine. Okay, my best friend, her name was Caitlin. I didn't tell you guys that, but her name was Caitlin. When I first met her, it was at school. It might have been on the, yeah, it was at school. Yeah, it was at school. We had a class together, and these girls, since I was new there, they were being rude. And she said something to them. And that was what hit us off, you know. Like, those girls were being rude to somebody, and she stood up for them. And that made me feel like, oh yeah, she's a good person. Whatevers. But she is a good person still. I don't really talk to her that much anymore, honestly. We kind of just lost touch. She moved in with me a few years back, and we kind of just like haven't talked since she left because we had a falling out. We moved out of the trailer park and moved into an actual house in Kingston. And yeah, we moved near my crush. We moved near one of my crushes. The crush that we moved near, his name was Legend. And that boy he wasn't a good child. He was a bad influencing child, but I didn't care. You know, when you're a kid, your parents tell you not to hang out with somebody because they're a bad influence. And it just makes you want to do it more. Yeah. Okay, so living in that house was very interesting. He didn't really live in the house behind me, his dad did, but he came over to visit a lot. And he came over more whenever he found out that I lived there because we were best friends, so I wasn't complaining. I got my ears pierced in that house for the first time since I was a child. I came home from school with a cartilage piercing. That was interesting. One of my friends, her name was JC. She asked if I wanted to get my cartilage pierced. And I had just got these done, so I was like, you know what? Yes. So I went to school that day with an earring and was like, all right, pierce my ear. We went to the bathroom right before band class and she pierced my ear. I had to take it out about 3-4 years ago because it just always hurt for some reason. Like it never stopped hurting, but it wasn't infected or anything. It was just always hurting and red. Moving on. Okay, after we moved from Kingston, we moved to Whitewright. We moved into an actual house. It had a big old fenced-in yard, and it was had a pond in the back. Like, I'm not saying it was anything fancy. It really was. It wasn't anything fancy, but it was nice, you know. And then we had some good neighbors. Okay. Anyways, started school at Whitewright. First and second, best friends. Okay, the first friend I made at Whitewright, her name was Julie. I still keep in touch with her to this day. I still text her all the time. And then my other friend, her name was Samantha Brucato. I just butchered your last name, dude. Oh, God. Her name was Samantha Brucato. I always called her Avocado because, you know, Brucato, avocado. Ha ha. Ha ha ha. Anyways, she was Turtle Twin and I was Koala. We had these nicknames because they were mainly the animals that we liked. I don't know exactly how I got Koala because I never really liked koalas. I mean, but Julie said it was because I was tiny and have a small voice that she called me Koala, but I think there was another reason behind it. Okay. My first boyfriend at Whitewright. Okay, oh. My first boyfriend at Whitewright, his name was Jacob. He was about 6 foot tall, so very tall compared to me. I loved every second of that. I love that he was so tall compared to me. Like, I don't know why, but I love having a guy that's taller, you know? I don't know why, I just do. But he was very tall, so I had to stand up on the stage to like hug him or kiss him. But you weren't supposed to kiss in schools, and yeah, I guess you still aren't, but I did, we did. I remember giving him a kiss before we went to class one day, and the teacher seen it, and she started like saying, hey, you guys stop right there, and started like trying to talk to us, and I like ran off. I ran off and left him to fend for himself. I didn't care. I was like, nope, not today. Let's just say I had to buy him a cookie to make up for it. We broke up about 2-3 months after we were dating because of some me being childish things, I guess. I heard some rumors and I didn't like them, so I broke up with him. Okay, what I thought of the school. I loved the school. My favorite class was probably social studies and math because of the teachers. The teachers, I don't remember their names. I know the coach's name, the social studies teacher's name was Coach Brown, I do believe. And he was amazing. He basically introduced me to the movie that I love and will always love, which is called The Outsiders. We graduated out of, you know how in middle school, after you get to 8th grade, they make you graduate? They have you graduate into 9th grade. I don't know why it's such a big deal, but they do. We graduated and we moved into 9th grade. Samantha moved to back to New Jersey. Oh, I didn't tell you guys that. Yeah, Samantha was she moved down from New Jersey. Oh yeah, I guess I did, sort of. These are out of order, guys. Yeah, these are out of order, guys. Okay, anyways. Samantha moved down from New Jersey for a year to live with her aunt because of some personal problems. So as when she was living down here, she lived with her aunt and she hung out with us. Her mom and her Uncle John came back down and got her that summer. I'm all over the place with these words, guys. Her mom and her Uncle John came down to get her from and take her back to New Jersey. We spent the last day together and we spent Christmas together. Her Uncle John took us to the 2 biggest malls in Texas for Christmas. And going to the 2 biggest malls in Texas with 2 teen girls, I give him props. He survived. I went to White Wright High School for about 2-3 months, and then we moved to Commerce. Dun, 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 dun. Moving to Commerce, Texas. Where to begin? Okay, my first day at Commerce, I met a beautiful young lady in the very first class of the very first day named Danielle. I was trying to find a place to sit, and she just blurts out and yells, "Hey, short girl, sit here." Okay. So that started our friendship. We weren't really close freshman year. I mean, we were, and I stayed the night at her house and everything, but we weren't as close as we are now. Around that time, I was close with another person. Her name was Mackenzie Guerrero. She was my best friend and my best friend freshman year. She was the one person I went to for everything and all that good jazz. Let's see. Let's just get to the obvious ones. I had a boyfriend when I very first started at Commerce. I had him the beginning of the year in White Wright too. Me and him were dating for 3 months, 2 days. 3 months and 2 days, yeah. We had just celebrated our 3-month anniversary when he texts me and tells me we're breaking up. And he had just spent the weekend with me and everything too, so I was like, why now? Why didn't he tell me when he was over here before he left, you know? So I got very mad and I called him and I yelled at him and I was like, why didn't you do it this weekend if you wanted to do it? And he was like, I don't know, it hit me that we don't spend enough time together, blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right, whatever. And I was okay with it, honestly, I was, until I got a text, one of his friends from his school texted me and told me that he was kissing another girl on the same day we broke up. He was kissing her at lunch, though. He didn't text me till after school. Yeah, okay, so I texted him. Well, actually, I called him. And I was like, did you seriously kiss another girl before you broke up with me? Like, what is wrong with you? And he thought I was talking about a different time. So he had kissed her twice that day before he broke up with me. Lovely. Boys. Anyways, I hung out with the not so good kids of high school. But yeah, I hung out with them for a little bit sophomore year. Okay, Danielle moved away in between freshman and sophomore year. So in between this time right here, she moved away. I became a little bit distant from Mackenzie. And like, I don't know why, we just didn't talk very much. And I started hanging out with my friend, Nicole. Nicole was and will always be a part of my life. She was the person that knew me inside and out, the person that I could go to and just look at and she knew what I was feeling. Do you ever have that person? We were in class, in health science class, to be a doctor sort of thing. She works at a, what do you call those places? Kennel? Dog clinic? I don't know what you call those places. I completely just blinked, guys. Like, if I remember while I'm editing this, I'll write it right here. but I completely just blinked. Anyways, me and her would skip school together, like on rainy days, especially because we wanted to go home and sleep. My mom called me one day and she was like, hey, where are you at? And I was at home sleeping in bed. So I like started to whisper and I was like, I'm at school. What do you want? I'm in class. And she was like, you're not at school. The teachers just called, like the school just called me. You're not there. Where'd you go? And I was like, I'm at home in bed sleeping. She was like, okay, whatever. We'll deal with it when we get home. I didn't get in very much trouble, guys. She literally just like told me not to skip school again. And then I got detention for a day. Or ISS for a day. Okay, we're gonna move on to the really pressing one that you guys probably seen. Kissing people I shouldn't. Nicole's ex-boyfriend. I kissed him. Another girl's ex-boyfriend that I was friends with. I kissed him. You know that girl code thing where they say you're not supposed to kiss each other's exes? Yeah, see, in high school, I didn't really follow that very well for a little bit. I was very bad about that, and I don't know. I was in that phase. I was in a very bad phase at the time. Let's move on to the really pressing ones that you guys are going to love. Junior year. Just take it all in. Read it all in. Okay, Danielle moved back over the summer and she moved 3 houses down from me. So that was a very great day. We hung out a lot more. I still hung out with Nicole and stuff. And over the summer, yes, okay, there we go. Over the summer, before I forget to mention this, over the summer, my friend Samantha from New Jersey, talked about her in middle school area, she moved in with me. She came down to live with me from New Jersey because of some more family issues. But she came down to live with me, so that summer we spent, I think she moved in about 2 or 3 weeks before school started, so that whole time we spent unpacking her stuff and getting everything ready and getting her school supplies and stuff like that, and you know, just figuring everything out. Then Danielle moved in right down the road from us. It was great. About 3 weeks into school, I met a guy. We're not gonna mention his name because I swore I would never say his name again. And mean for him. I have other friends that have his name. I just don't say it for him, you know? Okay, anyways, guys. Yeah, I swore I would never say his name again because of everything that happened between us. Samantha asked him for a ride home because they had met first, you know, they had classes together, so they met. So she asked him for a ride, to give us a ride home one day. He did. And after that day, we started hanging out more, and I stopped hanging out with Nicole as much. I still hung out with Danielle like every day, but I stopped hanging out with Nicole. And yeah, this is about to get some like real deep again, guys. Just so you know, it's about to get real deep again. I started hanging out with him all the time, and one thing led to another, and we were dating. By November? October, November? Yeah, by October, we were dating. We dated for like a week, I think, actually. We did by Halloween that night. He said some things, and we just decided to call it quits for a little bit. We hung out for the rest of the year, me, him, and Danielle, every night. Basically, he was at my house. Okay, guys, I realized I started this next story without like giving a recap of everything that I was gonna say. In the time that I'm talking about, it is a few months later, and we are back on again. This whole 2 years that we were like talking. We were on and off again, dating, not dating, hanging out, not hanging out, talking, not talking. You know, it was one of those relationships that you have in high school. So, yeah, that's basically what I wanted to say is that I'm sorry I forgot to give the backstory. I don't know why I spaced on that, but I did. But yeah, Mackenzie comes back into the picture in this year too. Mackenzie and Hayden. Mackenzie started dating a guy named Hayden. You'll hear more about him later too. Hayden is one of my very best guy friends. I love him to death and never want to lose that little thing. Let's see. He stayed the night. I'm gonna call him he, okay guys? He stayed the night one night. Not Hayden, but the other dude I talked about a little bit ago. We will call him George. George stayed the night. And in the morning, my friend Samantha, she slept in the bed with us. Like, we all three slept in the same bed, you know, we didn't think anything of it. We just all kind of passed out. We passed out in the bed. He was slept in between us, but he was dating me, you know, so he was curled up next to me. So in the morning, after he had left, my Samantha came to me and she told me some really pressing things. I got mad. I asked him about it. He said no, and being a girl under a guy's spell, I believed him. Me and her weren't the same after that. We fought all the time, and eventually she decided to move out and move in with some friends from work. To this day, I mean, I regret that, of course, but it's just something that happened, and I can't go back and, like, change it or anything, you know? It happened. Me, him, and Danielle started hanging out a lot more. Me, him, Danielle, Mackenzie, and Hayden. So 5 of us, I think I counted right. I don't know if I did, guys. We all started hanging out a lot more. We'd hang out at Hayden's farm, George's house, or at my house. We never really hung out at Danielle's because of her parents. They didn't like guys being over. So, yeah. So we always hung out at my house, his house, or Hayden's house. Or farm. We didn't really hang out at Hayden's house. We hung out at his farm. We dated for 2 years on and off. We dated a little bit into senior year. I'll talk more about that in a second though. Let's see, we partied a lot. Almost every weekend we were drinking and partying and, you know, just having a good old time. We had a bonfire out at George's farm one night. Let's see, we stayed out late a lot, got in trouble for that. Okay, here's the kicker. Danielle started to mention, Danielle and me we were very close around this time, like very close. We are much closer now. But around this time we were very close friends. And she started to mention things to me like that he was being unfaithful and all this other good jazz. And once again, like Samantha, I didn't listen, but it didn't break our friendship up. It kind of made it better because she was like, okay, well, I mean, it's up to you. It's whatever you choose. I'm just telling you, I don't think he's right for you. So me and her, we hung out a lot more, and we started like hanging out with him a little less. Me and him always got into fights. Like every week we were in a fight about something. Every week, it didn't matter. We were in a fight about something. I remember staying the night at his house one night. I was over at his house one day and we got in a fight, and he made me leave. He got mad. We started yelling at each other, and his brother and his uncle were there. That's the best thing. His brother and his uncle were there, and they were both just like, he's just being him, he'll cool off, just let it go. He did. He came back, we talked it out, we were fine. Next week, we were at it again. We were always at each other's throats with something. Okay, we're gonna move on to senior year before this video gets too long. Senior year. Okay, that summer I took him on vacation with me to Arkansas to see my family. Before me and him broke up or anything like that, me and Danielle got in this big old fight about him. And we actually stopped being friends for a little bit. It happened around November, October-ish. Me and her got into this huge fight over him because he said something to me and I said something to her about it and everything. It just spiraled out of control. Mr. Larry was he was our computer teacher. Stormy's awake, by the way, guys. He was our computer teacher, and he was the teacher that noticed that me and her had stopped hanging out. And he told us, he pulled me aside one day and he was like, hey, I noticed you and her aren't hanging out as much anymore. What happened? And I was like, we just had a disagreement and we just haven't talked about it since, and we just decided to just stop hanging out for a little bit. And he was like, are y'all still friends? And I was like, I mean, not really, not right now. And he was like, well, she's a good friend and so are you, and y'all are both hard to come by. I had a friend who I lost and I wish I could take everything back and everything like that. So after that big old speech, I waited about 2 or 3 days and I decided to get over myself, and I texted her. And I was like, hi, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I'm sorry. I should have listened to you whenever you had something to say. I shouldn't have jumped down your throat for saying some things, and I shouldn't have said some things. And it took a lot to mend our friendship, and we still aren't completely fixed, but we're still best friends, and I don't know where I'd be without her in my life. She's okay. She is the light of my life. She is the one person I know I can go to for literally anything, and she'll be there. I can call her and she'll answer. Unless she's at work or like her phone's dead or something like that, you know? Or driving, of course. But we made up, and then I finally decided to start letting him go. George, we're calling him George, remember, guys. So I finally decided to let George go and get on with my life. And then came me and her graduating. Me and her graduated in December of the 21st. We didn't really graduate, but school ended for us technically, because we did the whole A+ graduating early thing so we could get out of school and get to college and stuff quicker. Yes, can I help you? Kikat's in there. Go get Kikat. Anyway, we graduated technically December 21st. We didn't walk the stage until May, but we did graduate December 21st. I hadn't seen him since then, so seeing him at graduation was very hard, but I mean, I was okay, you know, I went with it, and I was like, whatever, he's here, it doesn't matter, he's gonna be here. The only reason he was there was because of me. The only reason he was even able to graduate with our class was because of me. He was technically a year behind us, but I helped him with his A+ and stuff like that, and he graduated because of me. Okay, and before I get to the other stuff, Danielle sent me this text earlier because I was asking her questions, and she sent me this text with a little quote sort of thing in it, and I decided to share it with you guys. It says, don't ever let a boy come between you and your best friend, because boys come and go, but best friends last a lifetime. She's a very wise little nugget. I'm going to end it by saying thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, hit the subscribe button down below. And don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. And if you hit the little bell next to the subscribe button, you will get notified every time I upload. Thank you guys. Bye.